number one resource for college success.
Right now, the man of the hour.
Get your job done.
I have in the studio right with me, the great author.
Here's a guide to help students take it all in stride.
Hello, everyone. Of course, this is Terrell Jones here, founder of winningcollege.com and the author of The Fastest Way to Winning College, where I help train transitioning high school and college students in the areas of psychology, academics, social savviness, and career development so that your child gets into the career that they love and that they want to get into once they get through the college process. So glad that you all decided to join me here today. And I have a very, very special guest with this bonus call, and it's Cynthia Pantaleo. I'm pretty sure she's gonna kill me when she comes on here, but she got a master's from UVA, and she's been teaching through the nonprofit Junior Achievement within the Central Virginia area for the past 3 years. So I'm so glad I was able to get in contact with her and have her just share a few things with us today. So, Cynthia, I'm sorry, don't kill me for chopping up your last name.
No worries. Pantaleo.
How you say it?
Pantaleo.
Pantaleo. Okay, got you. All right. I said it like a 3-year-old, but I think I might have been close. Well, that's awesome. Well, Cynthia, again, I definitely thank you for joining us today. And, just helping us talk a little bit about, budgeting and finance. Really, why I'm here, and, we talked before this, is to help just give a little bit of insight and a little bit of perspective to students and parents in regards to finance and kind of just helping them with some budgeting. I know that, as we stated, you've been working with Junior Achievement for a few years now, and you see students walking in and out your doors every day that I'm sure are learning about finance, as they are taking some time out of their school day to go through the different activities with Junior Achievement. Could you just tell me a little bit about how did you get started with JA, just so everyone knows, and then a little bit about what JA Finance does for students?
Yeah. So what I did, I went to school for actually Masters of Teaching. I've always loved education, and I ended up not wanting to go toward a classroom in particular. I've grown up also as a volunteer all my life. I absolutely love nonprofits. And so when I found that I could teach through a nonprofit, that just seemed like the right fit. To be honest, finance was a bit of an afterthought. At this point, however, it has turned into quite a passion and priority for me. What I do here every day is I get to work with middle and high school students. They have received personal finance curriculum in the classroom, and then they come visit me and some volunteers, and they work through a budgeting simulation. So they're asked to take a new identity that I give them. So I might give them a couple kids and some debt and a new job, and I ask them then to budget, shop, and pay their bills by the end of the day. And it wears on them. They absolutely are learning life lessons by the end of the day, realizing just how much it takes to get through life as an adult.
Right. And, I've had an opportunity to join Cynthia, and I think, believe it, the one I was at, is it JA Finance? But, these kids are really funny. They have to choose between getting 2 new cars or sending 2 of their kids to college. So it's been one of the best experiences I've had, really joining you and joining the kids there. So it's definitely been fun. I think one of the things that they really learn there, as you stated, is really handling finances and really learning how to budget their money. And I think that's something that's really not taught, that much really in school. So I think JA Finance is a great thing for them. So, in your opinion, Cynthia, why do you feel as though it's important to help students, learn to budget and handle their finances?
So I think it's empowering to be in control of your finances. Whether you have a little bit of money or a lot of bit of money, you need to know where it's going, and you need to be in control of where it's going specifically. So budgeting gives you that power over your money. It lets you take control of your situation and be able to survive and more so thrive on whatever amount you're making.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, I know, for me in high school as a teenager, I could care less about budgeting. To me, it was just, if I got money, it was really to spend. It's funny because I remember the one time I was starting to think about saving money. Outside of, okay, let me budget my money to get like a video game or something. It was something I was budgeting money for. But I remember my friend telling me, he said, you know what, money comes and goes. Life is too short. You should just spend it. And, I kind of had some mixed feelings about that at the time because I always was interested in really kind of learning and really bettering myself. I wasn't refined, but not necessarily book smart either, but just kind of bettering myself. So, at that point in time, I really didn't know how to feel, but I didn't look at it as important as probably as I should have until I started going into college and my mother stopped paying my cell phone bill. So
yeah,
I learned budgeting real quick. I can tell you that.
Yeah, it starts to get important when all of a sudden it's thrown in your lap.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I kind of had to learn the hard way there. So when it comes to teenagers and budgeting, what do you feel like are some of their biggest frustrations, or what are some of the biggest things that you see that they're having trouble with when it comes to budgeting?
So I think it's the same for everybody, actually, not just teenagers, but the biggest frustration is, of course, not being able to afford all your wants. You go through and try and figure out how you can fit in having, that outing to the movies and going out to eat 10 times in a month and, buying all those clothes that you want, and all of these things still have to work out with your needs and your other bills. So I think just it's frustrating realizing that you maybe can't afford everything that you want, especially for teenagers who grow up having their parents pay for everything. All of a sudden when you realize it's on you, it's a learning opportunity right then. And so just trying to figure out how to make that work, I think that's what is so important about budgeting, is realizing that you can have a lot of your wants, but you need to make sure that you've planned it out.
Exactly. To your point, it's a problem that everybody, has had at least, at some point in their lives. And I think with students, the fact that in teenagers, you really don't have that many responsibilities, like especially when you're in that real sweet spot between let's say maybe 16 and kind of 18, where you have some freedom, but you really don't have to pay bills. But you're old enough to kind of do what you want. It can get a little bit tough because the money that you're getting, you don't have to, put money away for your kids, or you don't have to put money away for, well, hopefully you don't if you're that age, but, you don't have to put money away from maybe a cell phone bill, or, you're going to got to pay the lights. You don't have to save money for gas for your car. So it can be a lot of things that they don't necessarily have to think about. So usually you don't want life to force you into having to do it if you can help it. So I think that's why I feel like it's a little bit tough as well, but that's absolutely true. So in regards to, budgeting, have you always been the great budgeter? I know you've been working in finance for a while, but, have you ever struggled with anything before budgeting, or do you have any interesting stories for us?
Yeah, so I preach it every day, but I'll tell you, in JA Finance Park, just talking about these things has really made me better at practicing them. So the first few months that I was here, I was telling kids how important it is to know your credit score and to take care of it. It's one of the most important things you can do as an adult. And I had never checked mine. And so, here I was preaching it and not living it. So I have really started to live more of what I do say to these students.
Yeah.
So I know my credit score. I check it regularly. Now with, creditkarma.com, it makes it very easy to do. But with budgeting specifically, I will say I, know what I spend on bills, but I do not keep as close an eye on all of my other wants. So when I go out to eat or when I go shopping, those kinds of things have always been more of a challenge to me because of the effort it takes to track that spending.
Exactly.
So probably my biggest struggle is clothing shopping, because I enjoy it and I would love to spend so much money on clothes and I know I can't. So I do what I can, but every once in a while I spend too much.
Don't worry. I go through the same thing with my fiance. She spends too much, and I always seem to get stuck with the bill. So I understand that that aspect of it. I mean, it's been tough. I said a little bit about how I struggle with it, but even as I went into college, I've definitely started to get better. And the goal is, you're really not going to be perfect. There's always going to be some purchases
Right.
that you haven't, planned for, or maybe certain things where you want to go out and you might want to be spontaneous and do certain things and spend your money on certain things. But if you could kind of keep a handle on, all right, this is going to be, my play money, I got an extra, $100, $200 this month I could play around with, so I can go out to eat, or I can go out and, I could buy maybe some shoes or shirt and pins. If you can kind of manage that, then, I think that'll be a pretty good thing going down the road,
Yeah, no, and I think, with that, so while I might struggle a little bit on keeping my clothing spending down, I'm aware of that, and I'm aware of that as my priority. And so, knowing what money is left over after my bills each month, I am able to keep better track of that. So even if I do go a little heavy one month, I am aware and I can cut back a little the next month or two to make up for it. So I'm keeping track. I may not be budgeting exactly as I would in an ideal world, but I think being aware of that is definitely very helpful.
Right. And you know what? There's a quote that I heard that I think is great, and it speaks to what you just said. And it says that if you're not measuring it, then you're not managing it. And just like you say, as long as you're at least tracking it, you'll be able to say, all right, this is what I can do next month. This is what I can't do. So I think that's definitely, a good tip to really, help, listeners out there. All right. So what would be, a few tips or a few good ideas that you can, give to the students out there, or maybe, some of the parents that they can help their students with in regards to, getting a better handle on budgeting?
I think first it's realizing that, it is important for absolutely everyone. There's no one that gets to hide from budgeting, but that also it's not about limiting your spending. It's not about limiting your fun in life. It's freeing, actually, to know what money you have and to, be able to go out and say, okay, I know that I can pay all my bills this month. I know I can save this month, and I know I have the money to go out to eat with my friends because I made sure of it up front. And so it actually makes everything less stressful. And I think that just changing your mindset about budgeting, knowing that it is for everyone and that it's beneficial to how you feel about money, I think that's a good step one. I would also say that, you need to make sure that you're saving with your budget. So accounting for savings is huge. And, we can talk a little bit more about that once we go into talking about savings, but I think that's an important part of budgeting in itself. And I think just, knowing what you are currently spending and figuring out the places where your priorities are truly, and maybe working to cut back in other areas so that you don't feel limited by your budget, but empowered by it.
That's great. That's great. And, I definitely, like you're saying, as far as the priorities, that's, something where it can get away from you if you don't really, if you're not, diligent and focused on making sure that those priorities are met when it comes to budgeting and getting the things that you really need to get or spend money on. So when typically, and I'm not sure if you actually get into this with some of the students that you see, through your doors every day, but as far as creating a budget, what's some good ways that students can create a budget?
So I personally started with bills that I knew. Right? Things that are happening every single month, even the ones that fluctuate just a little, making sure it's a good average of what I've been spending. And then I've taken the rest of that money and looked at what I actually spend. So I track my spending habits, and then I can kind of budget from there. So if I know that my, clothing shopping was too high, then I can look at what I have been spending and maybe try and cut back just a little at first and kind of work my way down that way. So just keeping an eye on that and adjusting as needed from there. But definitely your bills, which in my world includes savings, making sure those are taken care of before you ever look at anything else.
Now, I might have missed it, but did you say, how are you tracking? Are you writing it down? Are you doing it on a worksheet, writing it on a piece of pen and paper? How do you keep track of that?
So my bank actually offers a money tracker. And so I really love using my debit card because then all my expenses are kept in one place and I can categorize them on that money tracker. So I can really keep an eye on it month to month to see roughly, what I'm spending in each category.
Nice. I think I have Bank of America. I think Bank of America does that as well. So I might actually look into that as well because I guess I'm using more of an old school method. I'm tracking my spending on an Excel sheet. So I got it listed out by a few different categories. I have everything that I pay for. I have it listed out on a monthly basis, whether it's cable, electricity, rent, everything, the amount of money that I plan on spending on gas every month, the amount of money that, I have that I plan on spending for groceries. I have everything listed out. And then I have the amounts that it either costs or I plan on not exceeding. And then as I go throughout the month, okay, let's say I pay the rent on the first of the month, then I'll highlight that out for the month of March or whatever month it is. And then I know that I already paid that. So then, for me, I kind of just check it maybe, every few days. And, every time I pay for something, I kind of just mark it out that way.
Yeah.
So there's a few different ways that you can definitely do it. But the main thing is that you're measuring it, that you're managing it and keeping track of it. So I think that's a good thing.
Another method, if, the keeping track kind of on a computer is difficult because sometimes it takes a little more than just seeing the numbers. Another common tip is to actually budget cash and, you can go so far as to put it in separate envelopes and physically separate your money, even just to get started and be able to see what's happening. There's something to be said for being able to touch what you can spend.
And you know what? That's a great idea because I listen to a lot of personal development and listen to different things. And that was actually a method that I heard somewhere that he took his child. I forgot how much he gives his child some kind of allowance, but he gives it to him in cash and, kind of just works with them, through the different things that he wants and different things that he needs to buy. And, he puts it in envelopes. And when it's out in cash, it's a lot easier because when you swipe in with a credit card or a debit card, it's easy to just take your credit card out and just swipe and just keep swiping because you're not seeing it. But when you see the money actually depleting in your wallet or your purse or pocketbook, then that's a whole different story.
Yeah. And if you're someone who is, having trouble saving or having trouble getting a handle on your budget, then make it physical, make it an actual dollar bill that you have to give away and then you don't have it anymore.
That's true.
And that's a great way to get a handle on that kind of spending.
That's awesome. Okay. So I'm getting ready to let you out of here soon. But before I do, what would you save? And I'm not sure if you have any. Do you have any kids?
I don't.
Okay. All right. So let's just say if you had to leave 3 tips with any student who comes to you, let's say through JA, finance, they come in your door and they ask you for 3 tips that could really help them get a hold around saving money, because budgeting is kind of around saving as well. What advice would you give them around saving money?
So the first one actually is kind of about budgeting, but they're so interlinked. Budget for your priorities and cut back where you can make sacrifices. So, and priorities are definitely going to be your needs, but also I like clothes. So I make sure I can go out and shop when I want, rather than spending my money on somewhere that I just don't care as much about that. I make sure that I can spend where I want to spend. So budget for your priorities and save some of that other money in your bank. Another big one is make saving automatic. I cannot stress that enough because we are too good at convincing ourselves that savings is not important, that what we want here and now is always going to be more important than, even a year down the road for our future selves. So there are too many ways to make savings automatic that there's no excuse not to at this point. So definitely look into that and make it happen and consider it a bill because it's that important. And then another one, just a tip for getting in that mindset of saving. Not only can you get that savings taken care of right away as soon as you get a paycheck, but you can also decide to spend less everywhere you go. So, you're going out to the movies with friends. Well, just buy the ticket don't buy the popcorn and drink, and you just saved some money. That kind of mentality.
Right.
You've gone out to eat, get water instead of the soda that you were planning on getting. You've just saved $2. And it's these little bits that really add up when you're talking about saving money. They add up so quickly. And then, you can put that money away, or saving money is also about having fun with your money, right? It doesn't have to be saving for necessities. You can also save for a game you want, or, save up for that car or anything like that. So, deciding where your money's going is important that way, but save money where you can so that you get the choice on the more important things.
Nice. Because I'm sure it'd be a lot easier to save if you know that you're about to go on a spring break or something like that. So you're going to spring break trip to Miami. I think it may be a little bit easier to save. So, but I definitely agree. You can save for anything you really want to save, but the more that you make it automatic, or the more that you make it a priority, and it'd be a little bit easier. Like for some of my bills, I don't even let it hit my bank account. Like soon as, there's something they have called bill pay. And as soon as it hits my account, then I can either make it go out, I can just straight go out and pay it, or whenever it hits the due date for a certain bill, it'll automatically deduct it out my account, So, and then I know, some people have certain accounts where they just have money for bills, and they put the money in for the bills and they don't even look at it no more. So, that can be something else as well.
Yeah. And there's, lots of different ways that you can make these things automatic, but, direct deposit with a paycheck, you can actually split up where your money goes. So you can say, I want, this much to go into my checking, but then put the rest in my savings. And so you can always just have it automatically come in to your savings. You don't look at that. You just see what's in your checking. And that's what you use to pay for things. You can also sign up for a debit card system, which many banks have this program where every time you swipe a debit card, it will round up to the next dollar and take that amount and put it in your savings. So every time you spend, you save 50 cents or 20 cents or 5 cents, but it adds up. So there are lots of opportunities for students to get involved in this kind of saving, but I think the most important thing that you could possibly do is start now, because it only adds up. And when you have some money in there, in the future, or not even in that far a future, you can look at investing it and really grow that money quickly. And the sooner you start that, the better.
That's awesome. Well, Cynthia, I definitely appreciate your wisdom and insight today for really helping everyone out. So, if you're able to just take, anything from this discussion, definitely don't just listen to it, but implement it as well, because it's one thing to listen, but it's a whole nother situation to actually implement it and use some of the things that we spoke about here today. So, Cynthia, I definitely appreciate you. And then I also know that where you're at is in Glen Allen, Virginia. And, I don't know if you want to just say a little bit about if you want to kind of invite anyone who wants to come by, or, just kind of do a little bit of a plug for what you have going on at JA Finance. How do they get access to it, or how do they get there if they wanted to?
Yeah, so Junior Achievement of Central Virginia actually has more than 20 different programs. JA Finance Park, the one that I lead, is just one of them. And so, if you're interested in getting involved in any capacity, you can check out our website at jatoday.org. All of our programs are listed there, all of our opportunities. It's also our 50th anniversary, so we are giving away $50 every single week this year on our Facebook. So definitely find us on social media. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, anywhere you can probably find us. Just search for us, Junior Achievement of Central Virginia. Connect with us. We'd love to hear from you.
Beautiful. Thank you again, Cynthia. And to everyone out there, just really take this advice to go out and use it, okay? So until next time, go out and get a great handle on your finances and budgeting. Take care.